Welcome to Econ 3.2, Market Structures Continued. Monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition is a market with many producers offering similar but slightly different products. Examples include the shoe, clothing, and restaurant industries. Shoes are shoes, clothes are clothes, and food is food. Yes, there's a huge difference among those categories, but they all do the same basic things. Monopolistic competition lies just to the right of perfect competition on the scale of competitiveness. Monopolistic competition again includes clothing companies like Gap, Hollister, Abercrombie & Fitch, different fast food restaurants, or maybe aptly fat food restaurants, and places like Macaroni Grill or the Olive Garden. Monopolistic competition is quite different from perfect competition in the fact that there's three things that set it very much apart. One of those things is product differentiation. Producers seek to point out the differences to set their products apart. In contrast to perfect competition, monopolistic competition utilizes product differentiation, real or imagined differences between competing products in the same industry. Most items produced today, from the many brands of athletic footwear to PCs, are differentiated. The differentiation may even extend to store location, store design, manner of payment, delivery, packaging, service, and other factors. For example, an Apple product is very similar to a Droid product. If you go to the Apple Store, sorry about that, guys. Seems my air server crashed momentarily. Back to the Apple Store example. Apple and Droid are very similar products, but Apple products are mainly only sold in Apple stores. If you go to an Apple store, you can pay with your credit card with the person off their iPhone, the sales associate's iPhone there. So that's a difference in store design, manner of payments, etc. Sometimes differences between products are real. For example, some brands of athletic shoes have special shock-absorbing soles or things that legitimately change the product. Others have certain construction materials to reduce weight, like the barefoot shoes, and some are designed to look, more appealing, or they're linked to star athletes. Okay, so sometimes it's real, sometimes it's imagined. Non-price competition. Non-price competition is the one that's probably most familiar with us. That's advertising and branding. Monopolistic competitors want to make consumers aware of product differences. Non-price competition is the use of advertising, giveaways, other promotional campaigns to convince buyers that the product is somehow better than another brand. Often takes the place of price competition. Therefore, monopolistic competitors usually advertise or promote heavily to make their products seem different from everyone else's. Red Bull doesn't really give you wings, but they advertise heavily in hopes that you will think it does, so that you will buy their product instead of Monster or Rockstar or other energy drinks. All of this leads to profit. Product differentiation and non-price competition gives the seller an increase in profits in a market where, as if we look back here, there's not a lot of profitability because it's so highly competitive. There's some control over prices. However, most designer jeans are within, $10 to $20 of one another, assuming they're not on sale. A little bit more about non-price competition. Non-price competition, sometimes what they'll do is use physical characteristics to set themselves apart in a monopolistic industry, like Fiji Water came out with a square bottle. There's another bottled water company that their bottles look like similar to a bottle of vodka, which is a very interesting marketing approach. Sometimes they'll use service as non-price competition. Cub says that they can keep prices lower by not providing you a bagger for your groceries. Others will use location. Specific locations are much more appealing than others. Apple stores, again, have limited locations, which makes it look more exclusive and fancy to some people, which leads us to status and image, which is another non-price competition that monopolistic competitors use. Coach purses or designer purses in general bring a certain status and a certain image to the buyer that companies work very hard to maintain. Oligopoly. Oligopoly is another example of a market structure. It's the last one that we're going to discuss. An oligopoly is a market with only a few producers that offer similar or identical products. Examples here include the soft drink, soda, aircraft and car industries. The important thing to note for an oligopoly is that the exact number of firms in the industry is less important than the ability of any single firm to cause a change in output, sales, and other things, such as prices in the industry as a whole. Because of these characteristics, oligopoly is further from perfect competition than is monopolistic competition. Therefore, it moves a little bit further to the right. Oligopoly answers the question to the four characteristics of a market structure in the fact that there are few producers, similar or different products, there are relatively high barriers to entry, and the oligopolistic firms have some control over their price. Some examples include, again, the car companies, because there are high barriers to entry to becoming a car company. Also, soda industries, because there are high barriers to entry to gain shares or to gain space in a supermarket. Furthermore, oligopoly generally is 3 to 4 sellers that control 70% or more of the market. New products for these businesses are very risky. They could reduce their market share, therefore most products are similar. Coke and Pepsi both have a cherry product. They at one point both had a vanilla product. They both have diet products, so they have very similar product lines. There are high startup costs, there's lots of government regulation, and brand loyalty is fierce. For example, starting up a car company would be really expensive because you need a lot of equipment and a lot of highly skilled workers. There's heavy government regulation about vehicles on the road, and people are very loyal to the brands that they've purchased for years, that their parents have purchased, grandparents, etc. Oligopolies, furthermore, compete on non-price competition, similar to monopolistic competition, but there's higher stakes involved. It's intense. They advertise and develop loyalty to try to keep their corner of the market. So they struggle with what we call interdependent pricing. They depend on one another's prices in order to function. Interdependent pricing can sometimes cause price leadership, where one seller sets the price of a product that all competitors must be close to or risk losing market share. For example, Coke and Pepsi all have similarly priced products, whether it's a 24-pack, a 2-liter bottle, or your 20-ounce bottle of soda. If Coke decides to sell their 20-ounce bottle of soda for 50 cents rather than $1, $1.29, whatever it sells for, then Pepsi must follow suit or risk losing share in the market. That can sometimes lead to a price war, where sellers aggressively undercut each other's prices to gain certain share of the market. That can be very dangerous and very risky. The tendency of oligopolists to act together usually shows up in their pricing behavior. Again, for example, one firm may try to implement a price increase in hopes that other firms in the industry will follow. If the other firms don't follow, then the oligopolist that initiated the price change will usually be forced to take it back or lose customers to its competitors. Sometimes oligopolies participate in illegal activity. This illegal activity is probably not what's popping into your brain right now, but because oligopolists are so large, whenever one firm acts, the other firms usually follow. Each oligopolist knows that the other firm in the industry have considerable power and influence over consumer choices. Therefore, they tend to act together. Sometimes that interdependent behavior becomes illegal behavior. Sometimes that happens in the form of what we call collusion. Collusion is when sellers secretly agree to set production levels or prices. So it's a formal agreement, but it's secret, to behave in a cooperative manner. One such form of collusion is price fixing, where they agree to charge the same or similar prices for a product that might be artificially high. In almost every case, these prices are higher than those determined under regular competition. The firms might also agree to divide the market so that each is guaranteed to sell a certain amount. Because collusion usually restrains trade, it's against the law because it's not as effective. It's essentially like putting money in one another's pocket. It's illegal. Another form of an oligopoly is what we call a cartel. A cartel is formed by sellers who openly organize a system of price setting and market sharing. We're most familiar with cartels when it comes to the illegal drug trade. Many Mexican groups in Central and South America have formed these openly organized systems where they set prices and share the market for illegal drugs rather than compete and kill one another. A legal example of a cartel is OPEC, which is a group of countries around the world that set production targets and control the price of oil on the open market. At times, their behavior becomes illegal, and it can be considered illegal in certain countries. However, OPEC, since it's an international group of people voluntarily participating, it's almost impossible to prosecute in most areas. Those are the 4 market structures. Next up, 3.3, production and profit in the 4 different market structures.